On live television, Donald Trump leaned into the microphone, smirked at the camera, and accused Barack Obama of faking his Harvard law degree. The audience gasped. The country froze. Millions thought they were about to watch Obama's legacy shatter. But instead of outrage, Obama responded with calm precision, and his answer didn't just defend his name. It flipped the entire room, leaving Trump rattled and America buzzing. The lights were harsh. The crowd restless, every camera trained on the stage. Trump let the silence stretch, then delivered his punchline with a sneer. "Your degree is fake, Barack. Everyone knows it." Gasps cut through the studio. Some laughed nervously. Others sat frozen. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of microphones broadcasting to living rooms across America. Moderator Allison Drake steadied her voice. "President Obama is joining us live from Chicago. Mr. Obama, do you care to respond?" The big screen lit up. Obama appeared seated in a modest office, shelves neatly lined behind him. No panic, no anger. Just a quiet smile, as if he'd been waiting for this. The contrast was stark. Trump radiating aggression, Obama exuding calm. He leaned back, then chuckled softly. "It's interesting to hear someone question credentials," he began, eyes steady. "But the real question is, what have we actually done for people? Who have we lifted up?" The audience stirred. Trump tapped impatiently at his desk. Obama pressed on, shifting the spotlight. "I've spent years teaching constitutional law. Some of my students are judges today. Others are civil rights lawyers. If my degree was fake, then I suppose they just imagined every lecture, every challenge, every late-night review session." Laughter and applause rippled across the room. Trump's smirk thinned. Obama leaned forward slightly, voice steady. "The truth doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to insult. It just stands there, and eventually, people see it for what it is." In that moment, millions saw two very different approaches to power collide. One relied on mockery, the other on substance. And while the night wasn't over, the audience knew they'd just witnessed the opening round of a confrontation that would ripple across the nation. "Come on, Barack. Don't dodge the question," Trump pressed, his voice rising. "Was your degree real or not? Everyone's been talking about it." Obama's smile widened, almost playful. "Donald, the degree was very real. Harvard doesn't hand those out as party favors. But let's set that aside, because the bigger question isn't whether I studied lots, whether I applied it, and I did. For years. In classrooms, in communities, with people who needed someone to stand up for them." The moderator shifted, slightly relief flickering across her face as Obama steered the conversation back toward substance. The camera caught Trump, restless now, his knee bouncing under the table. Then Obama leaned closer to the camera, his voice softening. "You know, Donald, when I was teaching at the University of Chicago, my students weren't worried about whether my diploma had gold ink. They were worried about whether I could challenge them to think differently, to see the Constitution. Not as a relic, but as a living document. That's what mattered to them." The words struck home. In the audience, Janice Hollowell, a retired principal, leaned forward and whispered, "That's how you answer, with facts." Trump couldn't help himself. He scoffed, throwing his hands up. "Come on, Barack, you had everything handed to you. Everybody knows it. Nothing about your story is real." The remark drew groans from the crowd. Some clapped in support, but others winced at the cheap shot. Obama didn't flinch. He let the insult hang in the air before replying, calm and steady. "If it were all handed to me, Donald, I wouldn't have been paying off student loans well into my 40s. That's a reality a lot of Americans know. And it's why education matters so deeply, because it's not about where you start. It's about how far you can go when given the chance." Applause thundered, louder this time. The camera cut back to Trump, shifting uncomfortably in his chair. The contrast was stark, one man escalating, the other disarming. Meanwhile, social media was already on fire. In Austin, college students huddled around their phones, replaying clips within seconds of them airing. On X, a user named @RealTalkMarcus posted, "Obama just dismantled Trump without raising his voice. This is wild." Another wrote, "Degree or no degree, this is how a president should carry himself." On stage, moderator Allison Drake tried to regain control. "Gentlemen, let's remember this is a forum about policy as much as personality." Her words were barely heard over the audience's reaction to Obama's poise. He gave a small nod toward the camera. At the end of the day, people don't want someone screaming at them. They want someone who listens, who respects their intelligence, who shows them that facts and history matter. That's what I've always tried to do. The audience erupted again, louder. Trump's arms folded tightly, his jaw clenched as he muttered something under his breath the microphones didn't catch. Across America, from Tampa to Portland, living rooms lit up with debate. Some sided with Trump's bluntness. Others admired Obama's composure. But one fact was undeniable. Obama had walked into the arena with precision and was changing the entire temperature of the room. Still, the real turning point hadn't arrived. Yet, and when it did, it would hit harder than anyone expected. The tension thickened, like the air before a storm. Trump waved a hand dismissively. "All right, Barack, you keep talking about teaching, but we've never even seen your transcripts. We don't even know how you got into Harvard. Maybe you didn't belong there at all." Gasps swept through the crowd. The moderator opened her mouth to intervene, then stopped. This wasn't just another jab. This was personal. Obama didn't react immediately. He let the sting of the words linger. Then, almost casually, he folded his hands, leaned forward, and looked straight into the camera. "You know, Donald," he began slowly, "I remember teaching a young woman in my constitutional law class. Her name was Linda Carver. Bright, sharp. She asked the kinds of questions that made the entire class sit up. She once told me those classes shaped her entire idea of justice. Today, she's Judge Carver, serving in Cincinnati. If my degree was fake, then I suppose she must have dreamed every lecture she sat through." The audience murmured, then broke into scattered applause. The camera caught a woman in the front row, smiling, nodding as if to say, "That's the way you do it." Obama pressed on, still calm, still steady. And then there was Daniel Brooks. From Detroit, first in his family to graduate college. He once told me studying constitutional law made him realize he wanted to fight for people without a voice. Today, he's a civil rights attorney. If my degree was fake, then he must have imagined those nights of case studies, those debates where he pushed me as hard as I pushed him. This time the applause was louder, rippling through the studio in a bar in Pittsburgh. Patrons raised their glasses. "That's the Obama I remember." One man said, measured, sharp, unshaken. Trump's smirk faltered. He leaned forward, voice rising. "Oh, please. You're just throwing names around. Nobody knows these people. They could be made up." But before Obama could answer, moderator Allison Drake cut in. "Actually, Mr. Trump, Judge Linda Carver was confirmed in 2018. And Daniel Brooks has been active in civil rights cases in Michigan. Both are very real and both have publicly credited President Obama as a mentor." Applause erupted. Trump blinked, thrown off balance. His laugh came out forced, strained. Obama tilted his head slightly, amusement flickering in his voice. "So, maybe we should be careful before dismissing the hard work of students who've dedicated their lives to service. Because when you undermine me, Donald, you're not insulting me, you're insulting them. And everyone who's fought for an education despite the odds." The contrast was stark. Trump's attack was about tearing down. Obama's reply was about lifting others up. It wasn't just defense, it was an appeal to every late-night student, every parent working 2 jobs, every teacher staying after hours for one more lesson. In the crowd, Charles Benton, a factory worker from Indiana, muttered to himself, "That hits home. My daughter's in law school right now. I know how much she sacrificed. That's real." Trump jabbed a finger. "You're just good at stories, Barack. That's all you've ever had. Stories? But stories don't prove anything." Obama let the line hang, then answered with quiet force. "Stories are proof, Donald. Proof of lives changed. Proof of work done. That's what leadership is, not insults, not attacks, but showing that what you've done has meaning." The audience thundered with applause. Even some who had cheered Trump looked unsettled. Outside the studio, the moment spread like wildfire. In a Phoenix dorm lounge, students crowded around their phones. #DeGriveTruth is already trending, one said. Another shouted, "Check this, Judge Carver just tweeted pictures from Obama's class." It was no longer just an argument. It was evidence, undeniable, unfolding in real time. But Trump wasn't finished. He leaned forward, his voice harder, sharper. "Barack, I'll give you this, sure, smooth. But everyone knows Harvard bent the rules for you. They wanted you. There. You're the biggest fraud this country's ever seen." The room gasped. Not laughter, not applause gasps. Even Trump's supporters shifted uneasily. Allison Drake tried to intervene, but the sound of the crowd drowned her out. Obama didn't flinch, didn't move. He tilted his head, took a measured breath, and answered in a tone so calm it shrank the accusation into something small. "Donald, the thing about education is it doesn't vanish just because someone doubts it. I studied my degree. I taught, and the proof is out there on benches, in courtrooms, in the work of those I mentored." The applause was instant, louder than before. A few people even rose to their feet, breaking the tension with sudden energy. Cameras zoomed in on Trump's face, his smirk tightening into irritation. In Cleveland, a family of 5 sat riveted in their living room. Richard Lopez, a construction worker, shook his head. "You don't have to like Obama," he muttered. "But if you go after someone's education, you better have proof." His teenage son added, cool under pressure like nothing rattles him. Back in the studio, a voice cut through the air. "Show us your transcripts then." A man shouted at Trump. The crowd gasped, then erupted into scattered cheers. Trump flushed, his grip on the mic tightening. "This isn't about me," he barked. "This is about him, the fraud in Chicago, pretending he's a scholar." Obama's faint smile never wavered. "Donald, I've always believed leadership isn't about tearing people down. It's about lifting them up. My career has been about teaching, mentoring, helping others grow. That's not fraud. That's service." The applause rolled back, stronger now. Even neutrals were leaning his way. Allison Drake glanced nervously toward the producers. But no one stopped the exchange. They knew they were watching history replay itself in real time. And outside that studio, the country was on fire. In Columbus, Ohio, a student watch party erupted into cheers. In Sacramento, diners clapped in unison as the replay aired. Online, #stacked like dominoes, #Obama mic drop, #degree of truth, #class vs chaos. Trump slammed a hand against the table. "You can't just hide behind nice words, Barack. People are tired of the act. They want someone real." Obama chuckled softly. "Maybe being real means respecting facts. Maybe it means showing young people the truth matters more than the loudest insult in the room." The audience surged to its fed applause, shaking the stage. Even skeptics were nodding. For viewers at home, it was no longer about a degree, it was about credibility, composure, and what leadership looked like under fire. Trump leaned back, visibly frustrated. Obama leaned back too, smiling like a man who knew the blow he'd landed would echo long past that night, and as phones lit up across the studio, the storm online exploded. Clips, memes, edits, flooding TikTok X. Instagram, a Detroit user posted, "Trump, fake degree. Obama, students turn judges. Checkmate." Within minutes, the clip hit 40,000 shares. In Phoenix, 3 roommates laughed over trending hashtags. Hashtag degree of truth is already number to right under hashtag Obama mic drop. On TikTok, Obama's line, "Maybe being real means respecting facts," was remixed into edits, memes, even dance clips. A Florida teenager mouthed the words while pointing at her textbook. Captioned, "When your teacher's cooler than the ex-president roasting him." What began as an insult had become something else, entirely evidence. Content and a cultural moment burning across the country in real time. Within an hour, the clip had racked up 1.2 million views. And it wasn't just young audiences fueling the surge. Facebook timelines lit up to dot in Kansas City. 64-year-old retiree Susan Dalton shared the moment with a caption, "I didn't agree with everything Obama did, but the way he handled that attack tonight, pure class. That's leadership." Dozens of her friends piled on, debating, praising, and arguing fiercely under the post. Cable networks scrambled to catch up. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, all cut into scheduled programming to replay the exchange. Anchors dissected the clash. Had Trump crossed a line, or had Obama simply reminded the country what composure looked like? On MSNBC, Rachel Fenwick summed it up. "The contrast couldn't be clearer. Trump yells, Obama teaches." Over at Fox, host Peter Lang tried damage control. Obama's rehearsed. Trump's authentic. But even as he spoke, split-screen graphics of trending hashtags hashtag Obama mic drop. Hashtag class vs chaos. Hashtag degree of truth betrayed. Which narrative was resonating? Inside the studio, Obama seemed to sense the storm outside. When cheers drowned out Trump. Mid-sentence, he gave a faint smile, glancing down as though he knew millions beyond the room were reacting in real time. Trump's campaign was scrambling too frantically, tweeting that Obama's lines were scripted and phony. But hashtags weren't breaking his way. Hashtag Obama mic drop carried triumph. Hashtag class vs chaos paired the men side by side in brutal memes. Hashtag degree of truth turned into a viral thread where people posted graduation photos, tagging mentors who shaped their lives. What began as an insult was mutating into a celebration of education itself. In Dallas, at a sports bar, a group of middle-aged men abandoned their football game to catch the replay. Ronald Beckett shook his head. "Man, you don't gotta like his politics, but that was smooth." Trump walked right into it. By morning, classrooms across the country were already pulling up clips. At Lincoln High in Omaha, government teacher Mr. Hargrove replayed Obama's rebuttal. "Notice what he did here," he told his students. "No shouting, no dodging. He used real examples. That's rhetoric, with weight." Students leaned forward, jotting notes as their phones buzzed with the same hashtags flooding the internet. Back. On American News Network, Allison Drake finally raised her voice above the roar of applause. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll continue with audience questions shortly. But I think it's fair to say this discussion has already sparked a national conversation." The crowd laughed nervously, clapping again. Trump crossed his arms, scowling. Obama adjusted his tie and flappable, the picture of composure. Behind the scenes, producers were buzzing. Ratings were surging in real-time Nielsen projections, already hinting at record numbers. "This clip's gonna replay for weeks," one whispered, another smirked. "Forget weeks. This is tomorrow's headline. And sure enough, before midnight, push alerts flashed across screens nationwide. Obama fires back at Trump during live town hall. The exchange was no longer just political theater, it was cultural currency, spreading through offices, classrooms, homes, restaurants, but inside the studio, the fight wasn't over. Trump wasn't the type to let a moment like this pass quietly. His next move would be louder, harsher, more personal than ever. And just as he prepared to strike back, reinforcements for Obama were already stepping forward. Not tweets, not hashtags. Real people by dawn. Washington felt like it had been jolted by a small earthquake. The clip from the town hall wasn't just viral anymore, had exploded into a political flashpoint. Every cable segment, every podcast, every breakfast table seemed consumed by the same question. Had Trump finally gone too far? Or had Obama reminded America why calm once steadied the nation? At Union Station in D.C., commuters streamed through with earbuds in, tuned to morning shows. On NPR, Obama's words replayed on loop. Maybe being real means respecting facts. The line echoed in coffee shops and offices across the Capitol. Kelly Stanton, a congressional staffer, shook her head as she listened, texting a colleague. This clip is killing us. Even some of our own people think Trump looked bad. On Capitol Hill, lawmakers broke ranks. Senator Mark Latham of Ohio stepped in front of cameras. I've disagreed plenty with President Obama. But if you're going to question his education, you'd better bring receipts. Harvard doesn't hand out fake degrees. That's just common sense. Within minutes, his comments hit C-SPAN. But the most devastating responses came not from politicians, but from the very people Obama had once taught in Cincinnati. Linda Carver's phone buzzed with non-stop calls until she finally released a statement. I was in Barack Obama's class. His lectures pushed me harder than any course I ever took. I wouldn't be where I am today without his mentorship. To question his credentials is to question the foundation of my career, and, I assure you, it is very real. Her words were soon a chirun across CNN and MSNBC. Even Fox News had to acknowledge them, spinning awkwardly to frame it as elitist validation. But Carver's reputation was unassailable. Then came Daniel Brooks, a Detroit civil rights attorney. Sitting in his cluttered office, he looked straight into the camera. I spent 3 years in Barack Obama's classroom. He didn't just teach us the law, he taught us how to think critically about justice. If his degree is fake, then so is mine. And I prove it real every day in court. The video tore across social media. Civil rights groups amplified it. Law professors reposted it. Commenters piled on. This is what receipts look like. By midday, Georgetown and Howard Law scholars were giving interviews. Professor Evelyn Marks told PBS, "You can debate Barack Obama's politics, but you can't erase his academic record. This is a man who edited the Harvard Law Review, published respected scholarship, and mentored a generation of lawyers. Facts are stubborn things." Meanwhile, in the White House briefing room, Trump's press secretary James Mallory floundered. Pressed for evidence, he muttered about questions Americans are asking. Reporters pounced. "Do you have proof?" Anyone verified these claims? His evasions only fed the backlash. Across the country, ordinary Americans weighed in. At a cafe in Madison, one man shrugged. "You don't gotta love Obama. But degrees aren't fake, just because you say so." That's not how reality works. His friend laughed. "It's like arguing the sky isn't blue." Pointless. Online, the hashtag degree of truth swelled into something bigger. People posted their own diplomas, tagging professors and mentors. A mother in Tulsa shared a photo of her daughter holding her nursing certificate with the caption, "Education is earned, not given. Thank you to every teacher who believed in her. Respect matters." The post was shared more than 200,000 times, By afternoon, talk shows were locked in. On The View, co-host Maria Delgado said flatly, Trump thought he was landing a jab. Instead, Obama turned it into a national reminder of why education and composure matter. That's the difference between insults and leadership. Late night. Comedians joined in. One quipped, Trump said Obama's degree was fake, so Obama introduced a judge who could throw him in jail. That's what fact-checking looks like in real time. The audience roared. But in Washington's corridors, the mood was darker. Aides whispered that Trump's gambit had backfired. Strategists warned this wasn't just another gaffe, was the kind of viral moment that could frame him as reckless and Obama as statesmanlike. For months, and through it all, Obama hadn't once raised his voice. His students, his record, his legacy had spoken for him. Trump, however, wasn't done. By the time the broadcast entered its second hour, the town hall no longer felt like a structured event. Notes were abandoned. Planned topics ignored. What remained was a dual one-man throwing jabs, the other parrying with quiet precision. The crowd was tilting toward Obama, and Trump could feel it slipping. His jaw tightened, his gestures grew sharper, his voice louder. Leaning into the microphone, he cut above the applause that followed Obama's calm rebuttal. Barack, you're a phony. You've always been a phony. You smile, you tell stories, but it's an act. And the American people are sick of it. They don't want books and fake professors. They want someone real. The words hung like smoke. A few claps broke out, but just as many shifted uneasily. In the fifth row, Kendra Lawson whispered to her boyfriend, "Did he just say fake professors?" That's wild. Obama didn't rush. He let the noise fade, then answered in his steady baritone. "Donald, the professors at Harvard weren't fake. They challenged me the same way I challenged my own students. If you think education is an act, you've missed the point. Knowledge? Isn't theater its work? Hard work." Applause thundered back. Trump rolled his eyes, gesturing to the audience. "You see, Atia tated up. But speeches don't fix the border, don't lower gas prices, don't make America strong again." Obama leaned forward slightly, still composed. "Maybe not, but leadership does. Facts do. Truth does. You don't build solutions on lies. And you don't strengthen a nation by tearing down its teachers, judges, and lawyers. That's not strength, Donald. That's weakness." The roar shook the studio. Moderator Allison Drake tried to step in, but Trump slammed the table. "Don't lecture me about weakness, Barack. I built an empire. I ran a country. He jabbed at the screen. You read books and talked to students." Gasps rippled through the hall. The contrast was stark, Trump red-faced and shouting. Obama.com and unshaken. In Boise, Idaho, a retired veteran watched with his granddaughter. He shook his head. One's yelling, the other's teaching. Only one sounds like a leader. His granddaughter whispered back. He's not even mad, he's just winning. Back in the studio, Obama chuckled softly. "Well, Donald, I'll take being remembered as someone who read books and taught students. Because those students are now serving, defending, and strengthening this country. That is leadership investing in others." The cheers drowned out the boos. Trump tried to pivot. "What about your record?" 8 years of broken promises, weak foreign policy, a ruined country. Obama didn't blink. "Donald, the record speaks. We pulled this nation out of the worst recession in generations. We expanded healthcare so families didn't have to choose between rent and medicine. We restored respect on the world stage. You may not like it, but those aren't fake degrees, Donald. Those are real results." The studio erupted again. Trump gripped his microphone, knuckles white dot in a Milwaukee diner. Truckers watching the replay shook their heads. Trump's Swinging wild, one said. Obama's just standing there, come hitting cleaner. Like a prize fighter versus a street brawler. Even the moderator looked rattled. Gentlemen, this forum is about policy. But clearly, the public is seeing something much bigger. Trump seized it. Bigger? Yes. They're seeing a fraud exposed. In real time, if you've lied your whole life, Barack about your degree, your record, everything, you fooled America once. You won't again. The venom drew booze. Allison Drake leaned forward sharply. Mr. Trump, unless you can provide evidence for that claim, I must ask you to stop. Obama didn't move. Then, softly but firmly, he replied, Donald, if you think a lifetime of work disappears with one insult, you're mistaken. The truth isn't fragile. It doesn't need to shout. It stands, it endures. And the people watching tonight, they know the difference. The audience leapt to their feet, applause drowning out dissent. Online, hashtags. Stacked higher, hashtag truth endures join hashtag degree of truth at the top of the charts. Trump glared at the audience, visibly rattled. Obama, in contrast, leaned back in his chair calm as ever, his composure only magnified by the chaos swirling around him. The showdown was reaching its peak. Obama had yet to deliver his sharpest blow, and when he did, it would leave the country stunned. The studio was electric. The debate had long since moved past policy talking points and political theater. It was raw now. Trump, red-faced and restless, leaned forward like a man on the verge of an explosion. Obama, seated thousands of miles away in Chicago, looked as if he were having a casual conversation at home, jacket unbuttoned. Posture, easy voice, measured. Moderator. Allison Drake raised her voice above the crowd. Gentlemen, before we continue with audience questions, I'd like each of you to give a final statement on the issue of education and credibility. She stressed the last word, knowing it was the heart of the night. Trump jumped in first, scoffing. Credibility. I've built buildings, signed paychecks, sat across from world leaders. Barack just talks. He smiles, tells stories, makes people feel good. But feelings don't win wars. Feelings don't build economies. My credibility is what I've built with my own two hands. He jabbed the desk with each word, his tone defiant. The audience reacted in split-tones cheers from his loyalists, boos from skeptics, uneasy murmurs from the undecided. Then Obama leaned forward. His voice wasn't raised, but it pulled the room in like gravity. Donald, you have built things. Skyscrapers, casinos, golf courses. Some succeeded, many failed. That's business. But credibility isn't about what you build for yourself. It's about what you build for others. The crowd quieted. His words carried weight. I built classrooms full of future judges and attorneys. I built policies that gave millions of families health coverage. I built trust with allies when trust was in short supply. That's what education is supposed to prepare you for, not just a diploma, but the work that comes after it. The applause thundered. Trump shook his head, muttering into his mic. Typical, always the professor, always the lecture. Obama's smile was faint, almost pitying. Then came the line that would headline the next day's news. If my degree was fake, then Judge Carver must have imagined every casebook we poured over together. If my degree was fake, then Daniel Brooks must have dreamed those late nights we argued until he found his own voice as a lawyer. And if my degree was fake, Donald, then maybe we should compare resumes. Because one of us has spent decades building others. The other has spent decades building himself. The words hit like a hammer, gasps, then a roar. The audience rose to its feet in a standing ovation. Even some of Trump's own supporters clapped reluctantly, but they clapped. Allison Drake's eyes widened. She knew she had just witnessed a line that would be replayed for years in a Louisville bar. The crowd, watching the broadcast, erupted cheers, whistles, table pounding. "That's it. That's the knockout," one man shouted. His friend grinned. "That's the professor schooling the businessman." On stage, Trump's jaw tightened, lips pressed into a thin line. He reached for his microphone, but Allison cut in quickly. "Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move to the next topic." It was more than moderation. It was rescuing an attempt to keep Trump from digging the hole deeper. Obama leaned back on the split screen, hands resting lightly on the desk. He wasn't gloating. He wasn't even smiling broadly. He looked calm, satisfied, like a teacher who knew the lesson had finally landed. Online, the moment exploded instantly. The resume remark went viral. TikTok edits set it to dramatic music. Twitter threads dissected every phrase. Instagram Reels paired his words with graphics, comparing their actual records. In Denver, a rooftop watch party replayed the clip on someone's phone. "That's why he's different," Lydia Foster said. "He doesn't just clap back, he teaches." Her friend nodded. "And he makes you feel it." Even commentators couldn't ignore it. On CNN, one panelist called it the line of the year. On Fox, even a cautious analyst admitted Obama came prepared. He turned an insult into a statement about leadership. The audience in the studio was still clapping, drowning out Trump's off-mic protests. Cameras stayed fixed on Obamacom. Composed unshakable as if history itself had paused to etch the image in memory. The broadcast carried on, but for viewers at home, the debate was already finished. The blow had landed, the moment etched. Trump had mocked. Obama had turned the insult into a lesson. And when the dust cleared, only one line remained in the nation's ears. Maybe we should compare resumes. But the real storm began after the cameras cut by the time Allison Drake thanked the audience and the feed rolled to commercial. The clip was racing across timelines faster than any network could keep pace. From coast to coast, reactions poured. In raw, divided, electric dot in Columbus, Ohio, a late-night diner had both televisions tuned to the replay. Truckers on break, nurses still in scrubs, and college kids back for the weekend sat shoulder to shoulder. A waitress froze mid-stride, pie in hand, as Obama's words rang out again. When the line landed, the whole diner erupted laughter, clapping, headshakes of disbelief. One man leaned back in his booth and muttered, "That's it. That's the knockout." Across the country, in Portland, Oregon, a basement full of high school seniors huddled around a projector. They weren't old enough to vote, but they knew what they were watching. "He didn't yell once, not once," said Jared McIntyre. Another chimed in, and Trump looked like he was losing it. Night and day. Their laughter and commentary became its own viral clip before sunrise. By morning, the media machine scrambled to catch up. CNN replayed the exchange every 15 minutes. The chyrons screaming. Obama fires back with resume comparison. MSNBC devoted an entire panel to how Obama shifted the narrative from defense to offense. Even Fox News, struggling to spin it, aired the clip on loop. Host Peter Lang shook his head and admitted on air, whether you agree with him or not, that line hit its target. Local stations joined in too. In Tulsa, a cashier named Monica Reeves told a reporter, "You can fake a lot of things. You can't fake teaching. You can't fake students who are now judges." Outside a gas station in St. Louis, a man in a MAGA hat begrudgingly admitted, "I still don't trust him." But yeah, he handled that better than Trump. Online, it was chaos. Memes flooded feeds. Obama holding a chalkboard captioned, "Lesson 1. Facts greater than insults." Trump red-faced beneath the line, "When the teacher assigns homework, you didn't." Study 4. TikTok edits layered Obama's calm words over swelling music, pulling millions of views overnight in Dallas. A law school class opened with their professor replaying the clip. "Watch the delivery," Professor Eugene Pratt told his students. "The pacing, the restraint, every word grounded in evidence. That's persuasion. That's the craft." Some scribbled notes. Others grinned at the irony Obama giving a constitutional law lecture on national television. The White House wasn't laughing. By dawn, reports leaked of furious late-night calls. Trump's advisors scrambled to frame Obama's remarks as professorial arrogance, claiming he sounded out of touch. But the hashtags told another story. Hashtag Obama mic drop. Hashtag degree of truth. Hashtag truth over noise. They were trending worldwide, and in Cleveland, retired steelworker Anthony Vargas summed up what many felt when he called into local radio. "I've seen men who yell, and I've seen men who lead. The ones who lead don't have to scream. They steady you. They make you feel like they know what they're doing. That's what I saw last night." Late-night comedians wasted no time jumping in. On The Tonight Show, the host cracked. Trump said Obama's degree was fake. Obama basically replied, "Cool then, here's my student who's now a federal judge. Where's yours?" The audience erupted in laughter. On The Daily Show, a skit showed Obama calmly sipping tea while Trump shouted in the background a visual metaphor instantly understood by millions. By sunrise, the divide in reaction was clear. For Trump's base, the moment confirmed their view of Obama as elitist. For everyone else, it proved that poise and preparation could still triumph over volume. For Obama's allies, it felt like a turning point. His calm rebuttal reminded the nation of something too easily forgotten. Facts, delivered with confidence, still matter. And the exchange didn't just live in headlines, it was cemented as a cultural lesson. Within a week, clips circulated far beyond politics. Teachers replayed it in classrooms to explain debate strategies. Law professors dissected Obama's composure. Corporate coaches pointed to the moment as proof that influence is earned with preparation, not shouting. In Raleigh, Mississippi, a church group gathered after Sunday service to watch. Pastor Jerome Walters paused after Obama's compare resumes. Linan said, "This is the difference between pride and humility. Pride shouts to be heard. Humility stands on the truth and lets others decide." Heads nodded around the room. At a community college in Fresno, a rhetoric professor assigned essays on the exchange. One first-generation student wrote, "It made me proud to see someone defend education without apology. It told me my degree will mean something no matter who doubts me." His classmates clapped when it was read aloud. The cultural reach was undeniable. Obama's words became shorthand for calm authority, the kind that doesn't need theatrics to land a blow. Trump's jabs, sharp in the moment, were overshadowed by the simplicity of facts delivered with composure, and the lesson traveled far beyond politics. In workplaces, managers reminded teams, "We win arguments the way Obama did, with preparation, not yelling." Parents told their kids, "Stand up for yourself with facts, not insults." Coaches told athletes, "Play with control it. Your game talk." One civics teacher in Des Moines summed it up perfectly. The lesson isn't about Obama or Trump. It's about composure under pressure. That's a skill every student needs. Even critics admitted the truth. Conservative columnist Gregory Hines wrote, "I've never admired Obama's politics, but I can't deny he won the exchange. He didn't shout, he didn't sneer, he let his work speak for itself." That's a lesson we should all take seriously. Attempts at damage control by Trump's allies fizzled. Every time they called Obama elitist, it backfired. Instead, Americans began sharing their own stories of parents working night shifts so their kids could study, of teachers who pushed them harder, of education that changed lives. It became more than a political skirmish. It became a rallying cry for the value of learning, mentorship, and staying calm under fire. And that's the real takeaway. In a world where insults travel faster than facts, where shouting often drowns out truth, the Obama-Trump exchange proves something simple but lasting: you don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to tear others down to stand tall. Composure, grounded in truth, will always outlast the noise. So next time someone mocks you, doubts you, or tries to minimize your achievements, remember Obama's response. Facts, spoken clearly, carry more weight than the loudest voice in the room. Your work, your character, your resemblers will speak long after insults fade. If this story resonated, let it guide you. And if you want more stories like this, lessons hidden inside the chaos of public life, subscribe. Because the world will always have noise. But together, we can choose the voices that rise above it with clarity, respect, and truth.